Okay. All right. Well, hi, everybody. As I said, this is the Out of the Box reporting webinar. So this is kind of the first in a series. Each week of the month, we do build upon the previous session. So this is the very first one in the series. And today we're talking about basically report writing for non-report writers. So these are all of the options available to you within your CRM to get data without actually having to sort of write a report and do anything from scratch. So we're going to go through a bunch of different options here where you can find data. A couple of them a little bit hidden. You might not know about them. But we're going to talk about some of the dashboards, some of the data export options. You can find data and just export it. And we are going to talk about default reports and some of the features of those. And then we are going to talk about advanced search, which will kind of transition into starting to write your own simple, basic reports. So by the time you leave here today, you'll know all the places where you can automatically get data, and then we'll start giving you the skills to write some very basic queries using the advanced search interface. So we're going to start today right with the screen that I'm showing you, which is your dashboard. This is your homepage when you log in, and a lot of people just dash right past this. They don't really stop and kind of look at this. So this will tell you some information about how many contacts you have, your number of donors, your number of memberships and members. And as we get deeper into reporting, as the series goes on over the course of the month, we get a lot of questions about this. This is one of the big ones here, is the difference between members and memberships. Members are people, right? So this is an individual count or a unique count of members. Memberships is the actual membership, and one membership could have multiple members, right? So you could have like a group membership, like a family membership or an organizational membership. So when you're looking at statistics, both here like on your dashboard, when you're doing an advanced search, or when you're working with any of the reports, including default reports or your own custom reports, keep in mind that there's a difference between membership and members. And often these two numbers will not equal if you have any group memberships. You may also have members who have more than one membership, right? They may have membership in two different categories or levels of membership for whatever reason, or they may have an old expired membership and a current new membership. So keep that in mind. Often these two numbers will not equal each other. And we get a lot of questions about that. Now, as most all of you know, this dashboard is interactive. You can click on the funnel for any of these charts, and you will get filters that will allow you to adjust this data on the fly. You can hover over these to get the actual, what they would call the field label or the value label. So I can see here that my revenue for 2017, my event registrations is $10,317.18. You can also customize this dashboard by clicking on Configure Dashboard. You can turn off any charts that you don't need. It is good to occasionally check this. You may have, when you first started using Fundly CRM, turned off some charts you didn't think you needed, and several months may go by and you may forget that you've turned off some charts that it turns out you may actually need. Now that it's months later, you're familiar with the system, or maybe you're doing a slightly different job, or suddenly have different reporting needs than you did several months ago. So I do always encourage my clients to occasionally click on the Configure Dashboard and double check what they have for charts and see what they've turned off. And they might realize that there's something here that they actually would like and need. Also, while you're in this Configure Dashboard, you can click and drag to reorder your charts so that you can put information you use more frequently closer to the top of the screen. Any changes made to configure the dashboard here are for your login only. So each user can configure their dashboard to their particular needs. So that's the first place you can go to get some handy-dandy quick information about your donations and memberships and revenue. The next place we're going to go is to the events and to event dashboards. So from your main menu, if you are an organization that uses events and sets up events in your Fundly CRM, each event has a dashboard. And so I'm just going to click on the title of this event. And most people, this is kind of the homepage you come into when you come into an event. And a lot of people go zipping right past this as well and don't really stop and look at this. But this actually has a lot of information here. So for this particular event, my Lucky Lizard Reptile Fashion Show, I can see how many tickets have been sold. And of those, how many are still active registrations versus cancellations. If I've enacted the wait list, I can actually see how many people are waitlisted. Over here, I'm going to basically get kind of a P&L statement, which is a profit and loss, kind of a little revenue and expenditure statement. I'm going to be able to see the breakdown of how much of my revenue has come in through online sales, if I have integrated my Fundly CRM with my website. How much is offline, which means done through the back end, so staff did the data entry directly into the CRM. If you are selling other items, which are merchandise, which you can use the other items feature to sell raffle tickets, box lunches or meals, childcare slots, coffee mugs, CDs, whatever, anything that basically is not the ticket itself, but merchandise or services. And you'll get a breakdown for that as well. If you've had cancellations and you charge a cancellation fee, you will get a separate breakdown for that line item. If people have canceled and you've offered them refunds, you will see the refunds as a separate line item. And then if people have paid for tickets using discount codes and had discounted ticket prices, this will be broken out as well. So you'll then be able to see your gross revenue total. Separated out then will be your expenditures in red, including credit card processing fees. So that's your Stripe fee, plus the $1, sorry, that's the credit card, that's the Stripe fee. Service fees is the $1 per paid ticket that we, Fundly, charges you for processing fees. And then the expenses, which is this track expenses, where you can actually go in and put in a line item budget for your event. So you can put down the breakdown of the room rental and table and chairs rental and food and decorations and entertainment and things like that. And this will total that up and have that as a separate line item, which will then subtract these expenditures from your gross revenue total and come up with a net revenue amount for you. Beneath that, you're going to have a breakdown here. If you've used the send invites functionality, invited people to this event, you will actually be able to see that right here. So you'll be able to see how many invites you've sent, how many people have RSVP'd no, and how many have RSVP'd yes, and how many have not responded, and how many people opened and looked at it. And if this is a multi-date event, you can actually get that breakdown by date. So if this was a repeating event or like a class, then you would be able to see that breakdown. Then you have a bunch of charts here, and you've got revenue by mode of payment, so you can see the breakdown for all your registrations, how people paid. Your recent registrations, so these are the 5 most recent registrations, and then you can also see your attendee details right from here. Instead of going to your Manage Attendees and then going to the Attendee tab, you can actually see that here. Sales by registration type, so you're going to get a breakdown of your different ticket or registration types. If you click on this view, this will take you to your Manage Attendees, but filtered by that list. So I'm going to get my attendees, and now these are all my attendees with the general admission type. I can get back to my dashboard by clicking Event Dashboard. And then I'm going to see my breakdown of my other items I have sold, and I'm also going to see the number of tickets sold by date, because again, this is a repeating event, has multiple dates. And again, I can click this magnifying glass view to get into my Manage Attendees to get a filtered list that's already pre-filtered for me by this date. So there's some handy dandy information right here that makes it really easy to kind of see whether your event had a profit or a loss, and to see some information about your registrations and how that breaks down. Now, in addition, in events, when you go to Manage Attendees and you go to the Attendee page, there is an Attendee Export feature. You can see that right here, Export. The only place In your system, where you can see the details of attendee event registration forms, so this, your registration form and what they filled out, is either by going to the registrations and viewing each individual registration by clicking on edit and opening up the registration form to see what they filled out, or you can see that when you export the attendee list here. You cannot write reports on an event registration form. You cannot write a report. There is no way to do that. So the only way that you can see event attendee data or registration forms is through this export. Now, just to be clear, you can write a report on event attendees. You can get attendee name and the contact information, you know, their address and phone number and stuff. The registration form is the only thing you cannot report on. So the only place to see the registration form is view the form here or export. And if you click export, this is going to open up an Excel file. This is going to export it to Microsoft Excel. And it's a fixed template. You cannot adjust that template in any way, so the data you see and the columns you see is the data you get. But it's pretty comprehensive. You're going to get the attendee name and all of their contact information. You're going to get the registrant's name and their contact information. You're going to get how much they paid, their ticket type, the date they registered, the date they're attending, and their whole registration form. So you're actually going to get a lot of information. So this export function is really handy. We get a lot of people asking, how can I get a printable list? I need to print a list of who's coming to check people in at the door because I'm not going to have access to a computer or internet, so I can't really check them in live directly in the system, and I want to print a list. Coming to the event, doing this export, easiest, bestest way to do that. Next, we're going to look at membership now. Now, membership, you've got a couple of different places that you can get data. One is your dashboard. I showed you your total number of memberships and members will show up there. Also, from the main menu, if we go to Manage Membership and go into the Membership Index screen, you will be able to see here very quickly and easy how many memberships you have: active, inactive, lapsed, pending, and rejected. This pending and rejected, these two tabs come from people who have applied through your website to be a member. And if you've indicated that they need approval from a staff person, then they will show up here as pending. And rejected are people who applied through the website and who a staff person rejected and said they don't meet the criteria to be a member. Carrie asks, can you see expired events in the same event area? Yes. We'll just go quickly back to events. That's a good question. And you've got your active events and your inactive. So these are your expired or past events. And all of these, the same thing. You can just click into it. You'll have your dashboard and you can export the attendees as well. So it's exactly the same. There's just that filter for active and expired events. All right, so back to membership. So we'll go back to Manage Membership. So you do have the numbers here, but again, do keep in mind that these are memberships. These are memberships, not members. So sometimes that trips people up. So they look at this number and then they look at the main dashboard, or they look at a report, a member report, and they're like, but the numbers don't match up. This is your number of memberships. So just keep that in mind. Now the other place, this is actually a sneaky little place where you can find some data. So now I could come here and I could come into my active and I could search, I could say corporate, and I could filter my list of my active memberships, and now I'm just getting my corporate membership category and it gives me a little count. So I could say, okay, I've got 7 corporate memberships right now, active memberships. So that's one way that you very quickly and easily can get your different membership numbers by level. You can also get the same data, however, if you click into the main menu and go to configurations and go into your membership level configurations. The system actually has a little count there too. So this is a little trick that a lot of people don't know, but I'm going to go into my membership levels. I could have scrolled down the screen here as well instead of using the left-hand menu. But when I come into my configurations for membership levels, you're going to see right here your number of active memberships out of the total number of memberships. So I have this artist membership level, and I have 12 active members out of 51 total memberships. So of the 51, Terry can't do math in her head. Let's see, that's 29, 39, 39. 39 are inactive or lapsed, basically, is what that's telling me. So this is a really quick, easy way. Like if it's 2 minutes before your board meeting and you need this breakdown, rather than trying to write a report from scratch or run around other places, you can just, come here and just basically screenshot this and print it out and take it with you to your board meeting, and then at least you'd have it. So that's some quick, easy ways for membership. So now we're going to talk about financials. So you saw that there was in the dashboard, there's some breakdowns of like donations and membership revenue by source. And then in the event, there's also sort of a revenue breakdown per event. But if you want to be able to export your financial transactions, you may want to export a list to give to your accountant to reconcile with your accounting software, or if you want to be able to export your financial transactions in order to manually import them into a desktop QuickBooks, then you can use this option, and that is here under Financials. Here on your financial screen, this is an underrated screen that not enough people use, but it is one of your bestest friends in the whole system. From here, you actually can see a list of all of your financial transactions arranged generally by transaction date. So these are in reverse chronological order, and it's each of my financial transactions, every single transaction in my system. And I'm going to be able to see the contact whose transaction this is. I'm going to be able to see the type of transaction, if it's a gift, event other item purchase, a membership, an event registration. I'm going to be able to see if it's a donation, the fund, the transaction date, that's basically the invoice date. I'm going to be able to see the mode of payment and the reference number, the amount of it, and if it's assigned to an account and or a class, that will be listed here as well, and also the staff person who recorded this transaction, if there was a discount code used, and whether or not this has been paid. Now, when you first come to this tab or this screen, this is actually filtered data. It's not all of your data. You are on the payment screen by default, which means you're only seeing paid transactions, and it's filtered by this month by default. So I'm not seeing all transactions for all time. I'm only seeing transactions that happened this month. I can change these filters, so I could see everything that happened this week, month, or year, last week, month, or year, or I can put in custom dates and refilter this. I can also filter my paid transactions by any of these categories for donations, the fund, the account and class, the payment mode, who recorded the transaction, who recorded the payment, the contact this was for, the amount of the transaction, the payment information, and whether or not I've marked it as deposited. If I want to see all my transactions, even those that have not been paid, then I would use one of these other tabs. So item will list all items, whether or not they have been paid. I can do it by source of funds. So this will tell me, be able to filter it by just see my grants, just see my donations, just see my event registrations, etc., by contact name, class, and account. And then for each of these, I also can further filter. So I could see all items, and then I could further, whether it's paid or not, and then further restrict that or further filter that by only looking for deposited transactions or ones that were recorded by a particular staff person. While you're on this screen, you can actually export the records. And what you're going to export is what you see on the screen. So you can write custom reports, basically financial reports, right from here. And this is going to be your fastest, easiest option. So you can come here and I could say, let's do it by fund source. So let's say if I wanted to see all my donations that came in this week, so I'm going to search. That I did it. Yep. All right. Gift. And these should only be ones that came in this week. Yep. Okay, so there we go. So I can see right here, $495. So I got $495 in donations that came in this week. And I can now see I've got 14 records. See that listed right here. And I can export this. And if I click export, it's going to open up an Excel file. I may be sharing only the screen, so you guys may not see the Excel when it opens up, but trust me, there'll be an Excel opening up. And it opens up an Excel file. And now it's only listing those 14 items that are showing on the screen. So again, it's a very quick, easy way to write a financial report. And that, like the event attendee export, is a fixed template. So you can't adjust the template, you cannot add additional columns to that Excel spreadsheet, but it includes pretty much everything. It's going to give you everything that you see here. So you're going to see the item and the date and the amount and whether it was paid or not, and discount codes were used and how it was paid and the reference number, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a very quick and easy way to do the financial report. Now, in addition, there's a second type of financial report that you can do from here. One of the things that you can do is you can mark if a transaction has been deposited in your bank account. This makes it easier to reconcile against your bank statement. And you can, in fact, batch transactions together to make it easier to reconcile against your bank statement. So you can, for instance, select a couple of items. Let's see, that was credit cards. So let's do check and cash, right? We went down to the bank with our check and our cash. So I've got 4 transactions I have just selected now that were paid by cash or check. And I want to indicate that I stopped at the bank on my way home last night and deposited those. I can create deposit to indicate that those were batched together, and I can change the date to yesterday, and I could say checks and cash week of 10/4/17. Then I have to put a little memo, what are these things? So all checks that came in by Tuesday 10/4/17. And then it's going to give me the breakdown here of the items that I have picked on the previous screen. If I want to take anything out of the batch, I can. If I go, oh, wait a minute, no, this check wasn't in one of the ones I deposited, like this one, it came in 10/5. Oh, that wasn't in the office last night. This came in this morning. Get out of there. We don't want you. So I can just take it out of this batch. And I haven't deleted the transaction. It hasn't erased it from the financial screen. It just takes it out of this batch. I can do some manual adjustments as well. So I could indicate, if I stopped at Starbucks on the way to the bank and used some of this cash here. Well, no, these were cash, but let's pretend one of them was cash. And I used some of that cash that I was going to deposit to buy myself a big mocha grande latte or something. I don't know. I don't drink coffee, but let's pretend that's a thing. I hope that's a real thing. And let's say I bought that and took $5 out of the cash bag and used it to buy my latte. Then I could manually put that adjustment in here. And then once I confirm deposit, these items will be batched together. And I will be able to see those easily here on the deposited transactions, or I can filter on the financial transactions tab by deposited funds. When looking at deposit transactions, I can actually print this out. I can go in and view the details and I can print it. So this is, again, another quick report that you can generate. So if you need to print out a list of your deposits here, your batches, you can do that as well. Any questions about any of the items I've covered so far? So the dashboard, the event dashboard and attendee report, the membership, manage members and membership configurations, and the financials exports. Okay, so next we're going to talk about, those are kind of all the super easy, just push a button and you get some data, or just view on the screen and be able to view some data. So next we're going to move to default reports. So now this is kind of like a different category and a little bit of a step up, because a lot of the default reports do require you to interact with them. They've got interactive filters, and so you're going to have to put in some filters and apply those filters. But they're still basically reports that we've written for you, so you don't have to write the report. You just got to run the report, add the filters, and away you go. You're going to find your default reports. You're going to see a tab here that says default reports. Ignore that. Don't use that tab anymore. That's the old link. It needs to get updated. It's supposed to be updated here one of these days. It's going to be updated soon, but don't use this one anymore. Use the custom reports link, because through the custom reports link, you can get to your default reports. And if you go in this way, you get a couple extra features that you don't get if you go to the old link. So come here to your custom report, and if you're in Browse Reports, which is the little page, you will see a category for your default reports. We have over 160 reports, actually over 162 now, because I wrote 2 and added them a couple weeks ago. And I will admit without shame that the support team, we have not memorized every single report. Get a lot of questions of people say to me, which report is going to do X? And I got to be honest with you, off the top of my head, I don't know. There's 162 of them. I haven't memorized them all. So the good news is, though, every report comes with a description. So as you're looking at these reports, you're going to see that they're broken down into different categories. So all reports that are related to contact reports, basically like mailing lists or just lists of contacts with their contact information, their email, their phone number, their mailing address. Anything related to donations or gifts is going to be in the donation reports category. Reports related to events, both registrants and attendees, will be under the events category, etc. If I open up one of these categories, so if I go into donation and drop this little triangle down to open this up, I'll see a list of the individual reports that are here. Now you'll notice I get this double-headed arrow. If I hover over the line between the right pane and the left pane, I can click and drag to open this up so I can see the full name if I need to. And I can shrinky-dinky it down. You can search on report names as well. And then as I'm looking at these, I'm going to see the report name. So I'm going to see this donation report. Now that's not a terribly descriptive name. It's not really illuminating as to what the content of the report is. But if I click the report, if I highlight the name, down here at the bottom of the screen, I will normally get a description. Okay, this one also does not have a terribly illuminating description. Oh wait, yes it does. I just had to scroll down. Sorry. There we go, much better. So this report will provide the information of all the gifts recorded. So this donation report tells me information about every donation that's been made. So at the very least, it's going to have the donor name, the donation amount, and the donation date. Knowing our default reports the way I do, I assume it probably also has like the fund, the campaign, and the program that the donation was made to. I then have, all these other ones. Again, I can highlight one, and then it's going to tell me what this report does. So some of these have very long descriptions, you'll notice, and it may even include what the filters are. This even includes the processing time, so how long it should take to run it, etc. So these descriptions can vary a bit from very detailed to sort of a more general, but it should give you an idea of what the report does. Now for any of these reports, when I highlight it, I have several options here. I can execute it as a PDF just by clicking the PDF button. But I can also click these 4 bars here and I can get several options. I can run the report on the screen in interactive HTML, which we're going to talk about in a minute because it's super awesome. I can export this as Excel, PDF, rich text, or CSV. If I run the report on the screen as in interactive HTML, I can also export it from there. So I don't have to run it and then go, oh, sugar monkeys, I wanted it in Excel, close it, and then come back here and run it again. No, you can run it and then you can export it directly from running it. I can schedule this report, which we're going to talk about in a second, and then I could also copy it. So if I run the report, many of the reports will have some interactive filters. So it will pop up a box and it'll ask me to put in some filters. It might let me filter by date, or in this case, a donation report, I might be able to filter by fund or campaign, etc. So I'm just shrinky-dinking my left pane here again. And here we go. So here's my filters, and it's giving me actually a lot of choices. So I can say the gift type is equal to, and I can either type my response in the box, or if I don't really understand what it's asking, if I'm like, gift type, what on earth is gift type? I don't even know what you want from me. I can click the little drop-down arrow to see the values that are stored in this field. And now I can say, oh, it's asking if I want cash gifts or in-kind gifts, or both. If I don't put anything, it'll do both. It won't restrict. Otherwise, I could restrict to just cash, for instance, and not include my in-kind gifts. I also have the option to change the filter type here, or the filter condition or criteria. So instead of is equal to, I could say not equal to gift, which would be the same as equal to in-kind in this case. Not a great example, but you get the idea. I could say is one of, which would allow me to choose more than one option. Is one of means among, or multiple criteria basically. Is between usually is used for dates or amounts. Contains means contains the letters or words that I'm about to type. Again, doesn't make sense for gift type, but for instance, fund. If I had made different funds for each year, like I have my annual fund 2014, annual fund 2015, annual fund 2016. I could say is one of, and then select all of those from the list, or I could just say contains annual fund. And then in that case, now any fund, any donation made to a fund where the fund contains the words annual fund, regardless of which year it is, would get picked up. So using these filters, I have a lot of different options now of how to interact with this report that I'm about to run, right? So I can limit the data to particular funds or campaigns, exclude my voided transactions if I want, only pull donations that a certain contact made, etc. And I can also change these filters. So once I pick all my filters, and I'm going to leave those the way that they are, and then I'm going to click OK. And then that's now going to run the report. And because I chose run the report, it's going to run it in interactive HTML. And here we go. So now here's my report on my screen, and I can see I've got 11 pages. I can scroll through these pages and go through them, or I can use a double-headed arrow to jump to the very end. I can also, there's a find box here, so I could actually ask it to find. So for instance, anytime Abby made anybody named Abby made a donation, and then I can use this to search down for the next instance. In this case, didn't find any more. This find, as you'll notice, it's not searching the entire, it's searching the page that you're on. So it's not searching the entire report. So that's why. And so if I go up, actually, sorry, it is searching the entire report. I was on the last page and I was telling it to search forward. It's not like Word. Word will wrap around, you know, when you get to the last page when you're doing like find, and if you say find the next one, it goes back to page one. This one actually, it does search from page to page until you get to either the beginning or the end. You can't go backwards beyond the first page to wrap back around to the last page, and you can't go forward past the end of the last page back to the first page. So you can search up and down across multiple pages just until you hit the very beginning of the report or the very end of the report. Now, as I said, from here you can export. So this is where your export option is. So if you ran this and then determined that you wanted to export it to Excel maybe, or rich text format, which will send it to Word. CSV is Excel, but with the formatting stripped out, and then Excel. So I could export that directly from here. Now, when you run a report in interactive HTML, you can actually filter this report on the fly. So when I ran the report, it opened up that filter screen, and it allowed me to filter based on those preset filters that had been added to the report. But maybe I've already run the report, and then I was like, oh, sugar monkeys, I want to exclude my voided transactions, and I forgot to do that on the filter page. Or I only want to see donations that are greater than $100 right now. I don't have to close this report and rerun it to access the filters. Instead, I can use the interactive HTML viewer to filter this report on the fly. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do that. you're going to notice these 4 little dots over here on the left. Clicking on that opens up the interactive HTML viewer pane. Sometimes there will be filters that are available to you here if the report is set up with those filters. This one does not have any, alas. But if there were, I could use those filters to interact with this report. This will allow me to turn off or hide certain columns. So if I don't want to see them, I can do that, which is, if I'm going to go into a meeting and I'm going to project this on the screen, or if I want to hide a column because I don't want to share it with staff, instead of exporting it to Excel and deleting that column or hiding the column, I could just hide it right here, and then I could export it, or I could just print this out, right? Now, whoever set up this report so long ago did not name their column, so now I've just got letters, and I'm like, yeah, column K. Which column is that? How am I supposed to know which one is column K? That's not helpful. If I hover up here at the top into this gray bar, it actually will illuminate the names of the columns. So now I can see that column K is the program. And if I go, oh, I don't want the program, I'm just going to take that one off. Now, the other way that you can interact with this report is right-clicking. When I right-click, I'm going to bring up an interactive menu that will allow me to create my own filters, regardless of what other preset filters were related to this report, either hard-coded, which is that pop-up box that first appeared, or any interactive HTML viewer filters, which would have showed up here at the top above the column section if they had been added to this report. Using this interactive filter, the right-click filter, where you right-click makes a difference. So for instance, if I right-click on Missy, I now have the option to apply whatever I'm about to do next, either apply formatting or a filter, based on the fact that I clicked on this word Missy. I can then now apply to all, so everything in this column, regardless of what it is. I could, make it yellow, I could make it green, I could hide it, I could bold it, I could increase the font size, whatever. Or I can apply to equal values, equal meaning equal to what I clicked on. So I could say for every first name that is Missy, basically, because Missy is what I clicked on. So do whatever I'm going to do next, which bold it, turn it green, hide it, hide everything that's not that, etc. Apply to unequal values, which means to everything that's not Missy. Greater, that doesn't apply here because Missy is a word, it's text, so values don't apply. But if I had picked on a date, clicked on a date, or a number, like a currency field, then greater than and less than would apply and make sense. So in this case, if I say apply to all equal values, and I change the font to this lovely shade of blue, you're going to see instantly that every instance of the name Missy throughout the report is going to be shaded blue. I don't know if I have any more Missies beyond page 1. But I could also right-click and then say to unequal values, so anything that's not Missy. And then if I click on the filter, it's now going to filter the report based on this. So basically, it's going to say, actually, I'm going to change it to equal. So everything that's Missy, I want to only see things that are Missy. So apply to equal values and filter that. So filter is equal to Missy. And it's going to pop up over here, and it's going to work for a second, and then it's going to hide everything that's not Missy. And there we go. And now my report, instead of being 11 pages, is now 1 page long. And everybody who's Missy, I had already made it blue previously on the previous step, and now I hid everything that wasn't Missy, so we can see there were Missies on other pages. Now I could get rid of this filter just by clicking over here on the red X, and that will get rid of it, and it'll restore it and show me everybody. Now I'd already formatted it blue. If I want to change it back to black, I would have to click again, and I could just click and say apply to all, and then go back and make it black to undo my missiness. Now I could, for instance, if I only want to see donations that are more than $100, so I could, I'd have to find a $100 donation, but this one's 75, so let's pick that one. It's a really big one. Let's see. I don't even know if I have any. $100. Oh no. Nobody gave me $100. How rude. How rude. Wow. These are all small donations this year. Gotta step up my fundraising game. All right, well then be that way. All right, we'll do 75. So apply to everything that is greater than or equal to 75 and filter. And now I'm only going to see donations that are $75 or more on my report. And there we go. Everything else hidden. And I only have, I've got 2 pages now. Apparently I didn't have any $100, so it was good I stopped looking. Yeah, so I only have $75 is my highest amount. Any questions about that? Any questions about the interactive HTML viewer or filters? Because this is a great function that lets you interact with default reports without having to change the report in any way. So you don't have to do sort of any programming or coding or report writing. You can just sort of filter this on the fly. Now, obviously, you can't add additional information that is not already here. If I wanted to see, for instance, the email address of the donor, that's not a field that is on this report. The interactive HTML viewer and filters is not going to help me with that. It's not going to add a column that's not here. To do that, if I need to edit a default report, then I would come over here, I would click on the green bars, and I would duplicate. This makes a copy of the report. A box will pop up, ask you to name the report. You can keep it the same name or you can change the name, and then it will save it into your custom reports. That will allow you to then edit the default report. And then you could add a column for email address, for instance. But in terms of manipulating the data that's already pulled into your report, the interactive HTML viewer makes it really easy to be able to filter without, again, closing the report and rerunning it to bring up the filter box. And it is a way to filter even if certain filters aren't in that pop-up box. So if they had not given an option for like soft credit, and I wanted to filter and only see people who have a soft credit or hide all my soft credit donors, I'd still be able to do it by using the interactive HTML filters. All right, now the other thing you can do with default reports that's very exciting is you can actually schedule those reports. So again, clicking my 4 little green bars here, I can schedule the report. Scheduling a report allows you to set that report up to automatically run and to email itself to whomever you want on a set schedule. So you can have it email itself to you, you can have it email itself to your executive director, your board president, you know, whomever, your accountant, your CFO, whomever. Scheduling the report, it's a 3-step process. You got to give the schedule a name. Now, when you go into the Manage Scheduled Reports here to retrieve your reports, this is what it's going to look like. So it's going to tell you the name of the report, and then it's going to give you the scheduled name. The schedule name is kind of how you're going to be able to distinguish which report you're looking for, so that if you ever need to edit the schedule or stop it. So you want to be descriptive when you give it that schedule name. You know, if this is First Donors Scheduled, well, the name of the report is First Donors, and you're like, great, so who's it sending itself to? How often is this running? Like, what is this? That's not a helpful name. So when you are scheduling that report, you're going to want to kind of be a little more descriptive about that schedule name. So you may want to be something like new donors, new weekly donations to ED and CFO, right? And maybe I might say something like Tuesday mornings. So now I know this is the new donations that came in over the last week, and this is getting emailed to the executive director and the CFO, and it's going out Tuesday mornings. So be sort of descriptive, because you may schedule the same report on several different schedules, right? You may have it sent to yourself daily or weekly, but it only goes to your CFO monthly, and then maybe it only goes to your board president quarterly. So you may have several different schedules set up for the same report, and then when you try to go into that scheduler to amend one, it becomes really difficult if you haven't done a good job naming those different schedules. After you give it a name, What format do you want to receive it in? So you can receive it in any of the standard formats, Excel, PDF, rich text, and CSV. You can password protect the file that is emailed. So if it has sensitive data that you're worried about somebody reading accidentally who shouldn't have it or hacking somehow, then you could password protect it, and then the recipient will need to know the password to open the file. What time do you want this to run? So maybe I might set it to be like 3 a.m. in the morning. Normally you probably want it to run like offline hours, like overnight, right? And then have it waiting when you come in. Or maybe you want it at the very end of the day. So like you leave at 5 and you want it to run at 4:30, and so that you get it right before you leave at 5 so you can print it out, take it home, and read it on the train home or whatnot. So when should it run? You can set this to repeat at certain time intervals, right? Run every 30 minutes, every hour, every 6 hours. Probably not a huge amount of need for that, except maybe if you've got a report about like event registrations, right? And it's the last day and you're running around doing like last minute stuff and you want like every hour you want an update because a lot of people are registering at the last second. That would make sense to have it run itself to you, and then you're on your phone and you open up that report and can look at it and go, oh look, 20 more people just registered in the last hour. That makes sense. Otherwise, you're probably not going to have it running the same day multiple times. Then, how often should the report run in terms of daily, weekly, monthly, yearly? Or you can just tell it to run once. So if I wanted this to run every day, I could say that, and I could also say run every single day of the week. This is except for Saturdays and Sundays, so business days basically, or run every 1 day, every 3 days, every 5 days, whatever. Weekly, do I want to run it every week? This is my Tuesday morning report, so I'm going to say run it every day on Tuesday. I could say run every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, whatever. Monthly, I have two options. Either run it on particular date of the month, so on the 1st, the 15th, the 29th, whatever it is, regardless of what day of the week that date falls on, or run it on a particular day of the month, the first Sunday, the first weekday, the first weekend day, or the third Friday, regardless of the date that falls on. And then yearly, same thing. I could do it on a particular day or a particular date. This is my weekly. I'm going to do it on Tuesdays. And then when do I want this to start? So maybe I want it to start next week, so the 10th, and then either run forever and ever until I tell it to stop, or I can say, do it for the next 4 weeks and then stop, or I could set a particular end date. Then I'm going to click next. And here's my filters. So these are the filters that are hard-coded into the report. If some of these filters I don't want or don't need on this scheduled incidence of this report, I could take those off. So maybe if I'm like, I'm never going to filter it by contact ID, I want all contacts, so I'm just going to take it off because otherwise it's going to be, in the way. I don't need to filter by donation amount, et cetera, et cetera. So I can take off any of these filters that I don't want because they don't apply. This doesn't affect the underlying default report. This doesn't remove the filters from the default report. It just gets it so that when the report runs, you're not being prompted for these items. And then finally on next, who's this going to go to? So I'm going to enter their email address. So I could say this is going to go to support@fundly.com, and I can enter a CC into BCC. I can amend the subject line that will be received, and then I can type a message. So, hi, Dwayne, here's the weekly report of new donations that came in, or whatever. And then finally, I'm going to click finish. And then that is going to save this, and it will now show up in my schedule, and I will be able to see this, and it will start running and sending itself to me. If you don't get it, make sure you check your spam folder that it didn't go there. Make sure you whitelist the address that this is coming from to make sure that it comes through. If you ever need to come back in and edit, you can by clicking on the little edit row here, and you'll be able to open up and amend that schedule. And then also, if you need to get rid of the schedule, you can click the little X here, and it's going to delete it, and it says OK. And it actually, it sort of looks like it's still here, and then you actually have to click flush. Actually, sorry, that's going to flush all of them. It's supposed to flush just the one I just did. There we go. So you can delete one and take it off of here. Now, the important thing to remember about scheduled donations is if you make any change to the underlying report, you will have to reschedule it. That doesn't apply as much for default reports, except if we go in, because you can't edit a default report, but if you've scheduled a custom report and then you go and change that custom report, it will break the schedule and you need to delete the schedule and reschedule it. This can happen for default reports. If the support team or the technical team goes in and makes a change to a default report, it may break your schedule. If you suddenly notice that you stop receiving the report, then very likely we've made some sort of change to the underlying report, and now you will have to reschedule it. Any questions about working with the default reports? Okay. All right, so the last thing we're going to talk about is advanced search. So if you've gone through all the other out-of-the-box options and there's nothing left for you, what you need you can't find, then you can copy a default report and amend it. But in many cases, that's sort of moving into advanced, basic to intermediate reporting, especially most of the default reports are written with the standard/advanced user interface for reporting, which is covered in our third webinar of the month. And so if you're really new to reporting and you're starting out very basically, then you probably want to start with advanced search. Advanced search is your goodest friend, and you're going to find that under the magnifying glass, advanced search. Now you can actually write some pretty complicated criteria in advanced search. You can add multiple filters. So you can start, here at the top, if I wanted to say, show me every individual who is a donor or who is a member or who's a volunteer, then I could come in here and find that contact type, and I can say contact type is donor, and show me individuals, and I could click search and I would get that list. Now from your search results screen, you can export these results. So there's this export CSV. So this will export it to Excel as a CSV file. So I'd get my 370 donors with all the other export functions that you've seen today: export event attendees, export financial records. It's a fixed template. So you cannot amend that template. The columns you get are the columns you get. And there's kind of nothing you can do about it. And if you need additional data that's not contained in this export, then you would have to write a report. Now, the export's pretty comprehensive though. You're going to get basically everything that's sort of on the contact record. So you're going to get their name, and you're even going to get their spouse and I think you're going to get their contact types, their email, their phone number, their mailing address. I think you're going to get like their last donation date and last donation amount, etc. So you're actually going to get quite a bit of data, but if it's not the exact thing that you need, like if you need to see the details of like their membership, or you need to see event registration details, or something like that, then you're going to have to write a report. Now the good thing though about advanced search is you can save your advanced search criteria, and then you can actually dump that into a report. So you can actually use that advanced search in the report's writing interface, so that you already have the criteria set up and you don't have to set up the criteria in the report. You can just set up the columns you want to see. We do have a tutorial in the support library about how to use an advanced search in a report. So a step-by-step with video and pictures to walk you through that. Now you can also use this other criteria to write some pretty advanced criteria. Basically search on anything that's in your database. I cover this in the getting started, so most of you kind of know the basics of this. So I'm going to tell you guys now a few insider tips to help you. One of the things we get asked a lot about is donation reports. How do I write a report, that shows me only the people who donated in the last 6 months, or who haven't donated in the last 6 months? Well, You could do a couple of things, right? You could say donation date, is not before or is not after, and actually put a couple of dates in. The problem with that is you've now hard-coded that date, right? So if I say today being October 5th, so if I say last 6 months would be since like April 5th, right? So I could say show me everybody who has not donated after April 5th. But the problem is a month from now, that's outdated because April 5th will be 7 months. And I want that date to be moving, right? Like a moving target. I want it to roll forward a month every time I run the report without me hard coding it. There is this category called donor information that is available in advanced search and in reports. And this is basically what you want, because you're going to be able to see, for instance, frequency. And you're also going to be able to see recency. So recency means how recently did someone donate? And this is in months. So I could say recency in months is, less than 6, means somebody donated within the last 6 months. Or greater than 6 means show me everybody who hasn't donated in the last 6 months. Oh, I know you all like this. I can't hear you saying it, but I know that you're saying to yourself right now, that's awesome. I love this thing. Recency is, sorry, that was recency. We want frequency. Go back here, frequency. Frequency is how frequently has somebody donated to you. So I could say they've donated more than 4 times to me. And if I added a second criteria, so that's 4 times lifetime. But if I say donation date, so now if I go down to the gift category, gift date, and I say between, so maybe let's do this year, right? So 2017 through this year, the end of this year. So now I've put these two together. They've donated more 4 times this year. Now we're getting somewhere. And again, I'm doing all of this right in advanced search. I could save this criteria and then dump this into a report. Smart Tags uses this interface as well, the advanced search interface. I could set up a smart tag to tag contact records, as frequent donor or recent donors or lapsed donors or things like that, right? I could set up a criteria that says, show me everybody, tag everybody that hasn't donated in the last 6 months as lapsed donor. And then I would just have that, and I'd see that on a contact record, so that if I had need to go into a contact record, I'd see that tag on their record and know that they were a lapsed donor, and maybe I should call them. And I wouldn't even need to do a report in that case because I would just see the contact record, right, and just have it when I went into it by using a smart tag. And again, we have a full set of tutorials in the support library on how to use smart tags. We also in here, so this is the donor category here, donor information. So you've got some really fabulous options here for their first gift date. So show me everybody who's the first time they donated was at a particular date, and there's also last gift date and last gift amount. So show me the last time somebody donated, or the last time they donated, how much did they donate? So, show me everybody whose last gift date, last gift amount was $100. So the most recent donation that they made was $100 or more. Because maybe those people, you want to do a special appeal letter to them and ask them for $150 because you're trying to do a stretch goal with them. You can also, their most common gift amount, their lifetime amount that they've donated to you, etc. So you have all these different categories here that are available to you. So definitely check those out because they're going to be helpful. Keeping in mind, again, event attendee and event registration. Get a lot of questions about this. The registrant is the person who paid for the ticket and signed up. The attendee is the person that's attending, and they're the one that fills out the registration form. So when you're writing your reports, make sure you're asking yourself, do I want to know attendee or registration, right? Registrants or attendees, which do I want? Because it's different. And the same thing for membership. We've got membership information. And sometimes people say, well, how can I tell how many members I have? The easiest criteria for that is contact type equals member. Boom. That's going to give you your active members. If you want to see how many X members lapsed or inactive, then contact type equals X member. If you want to see their membership information, though, show them everybody who has a particular membership level, then you'd want to use the membership category. But if you just want to see your active members, contact type is member. Don't use the membership, because again, membership and member is not equal necessarily. Now, if you're an organization where it's one membership per person and each membership only has one person on it, you don't have any group memberships, then that would work for you. But most of our clients who are using memberships may have more than one person, may have a family, or it may be an organizational membership shared across multiple people. In which case, if you just want a unique count of your members, contact type equals member. And that is pretty much it. So any last questions on out-of-the-box reporting options? From here, if none of these options that I've gone over today work for you or getting you what you need, then you need to write a custom report, which is next week's webinar. We'll be talking about the ExpressView interface, which is the easiest user interface for writing simple reports. That it's basically a drag and drop interface, and it can get you information pretty quickly and easily. So I hope if you have not yet attended that webinar, that you will. We do have a recording of it in the support library, so if you can't make it next Thursday, that will be available. And otherwise, that's it.